6 feet under a false identity, every step calculated. Berlin, 1943. Nazi Germany's capital was a city on edge. The air was thick with fear, suspicion, and propaganda. Citizens whispered in alleys. Soldiers patrolled every street. The Führer's gaze seemed to pierce every window. Amid this tension, one man walked freely in the heart of Hitler's Berlin, unnoticed. Not a general, not a diplomat, not a German citizen, but an American spy. His mission: gather intelligence so critical it could alter the course of the war. His name, known only to a few in the Allied intelligence, was Jonathan Harris. At 28, Harris was not the kind of man who made headlines with bravado or heroics. Yet, his courage and cunning placed him where no other American could dare a residence in the very apartment complex where Adolf Hitler often resided. Under the guise of a German officer, he had spent years preparing. Fluent in German, trained in espionage, survival, and deception, Harris had already infiltrated minor Nazi offices before taking the ultimate risk. His cover? That of a mid-level Nazi bureaucrat transferred from Munich to Berlin. To the Gestapo and the SS, he was just another cog in the vast machinery of the Third Reich. To the Allies, he was a lifeline. A spy whose eyes could see the impossible. The apartment he moved into was modest but strategically located. From its windows, he could observe Nazi meetings, guard rotations, and even glimpse Hitler's security routines. Every detail, every habit, every shift in personnel was meticulously recorded. Life inside was a constant balancing act. Any misstep, slight hesitation, mispronounced word, unfamiliar gesture could unravel the entire operation. Harris knew that. He felt the weight of it every morning, every night, every breath he took. And yet, life had to appear normal. He attended dinner parties, nodded at conversations he barely understood, and smiled when others discussed politics he despised. All while memorizing codes, listening to confidential conversations, and passing intelligence back to Allied forces through a series of ingenious dead drops and coded letters. Months passed like this, a delicate dance of deception. Harris slept little, always alert, always calculating. The city itself became a labyrinth of danger. Gestapo raids, informants, and the ever-present threat of bombing raids. Berlin's streets were unforgiving, but Harris had become one with the city, blending in with shadows, with uniformed officers, with the whispers of history. One evening, a secret meeting took place in Hitler's complex. Harris, hiding in plain sight, overheard a conversation that would later prove pivotal. Plans for a major offensive on the Eastern Front, using nothing but memory and discreet sketches hidden inside hollowed-out furniture. Harris documented everything. This intelligence would allow the Allies to anticipate movements, saving thousands of lives on the battlefield. But the psychological toll was immense. Living among the enemy, seeing the brutality of the regime up close, yet unable to intervene directly, Harris learned the profound weight of moral responsibility. His mission required patience, secrecy, and the willingness to let atrocities happen while he ensured the greater good was served. The months in Hitler's Berlin were a testament to human ingenuity and courage. Harris survived not through violence or heroics, but through intelligence, observation, and an unshakable calm under pressure. And when the time came for him to leave, he vanished as quietly as he had arrived, leaving no trace of his existence. The apartment, the people, the city continued unaware of the American spy who had walked among them, shaping history in silence. Months had passed in Berlin, and Harris had become almost invisible. To the Germans, he was just another officer, quietly performing his duties, polite, competent, unremarkable. But behind closed doors, the apartment hummed with secrets. Every conversation, every gesture, every document he glimpsed could shift the balance of the war. Harris had developed a routine. Mornings were spent blending into the bureaucracy, attending briefings, observing interactions. Afternoons were reserved for discreet observation from his apartment's strategic vantage points. And nights were for intelligence work. Carefully, methodically, he would transcribe what he had memorized during the day. Using invisible ink and coded letters, messages were sent to Allied contacts through a network of couriers and dead drops hidden in Berlin's labyrinthine streets. Each successful transmission was a small victory. A single thread of hope in a city suffocating under fear. One of the most critical pieces of intelligence Harris gathered involved the planning of a new German armored division. The division's deployment could have allowed the Nazis to regain territory lost on the Eastern Front, potentially prolonging the war by months, even years. Harris committed every detail to memory: troop numbers, vehicle types, supply routes, and officers' names. Yet, the risk was immense. The Gestapo grew increasingly vigilant. Neighborhood patrols intensified, and surprise inspections became frequent. Harris learned to move with perfect timing. A single misstep, a door left ajar, a mispronounced word in German, a glance at the wrong officer could have meant immediate capture and likely execution. The shadow of death was constant, pressing in from every angle. Yet Harris never faltered. One evening, a high-ranking officer visited the building. Harris had been briefed that this official was crucial in Nazi intelligence. By observing the officer's habits, Harris discovered vulnerabilities in Berlin's security network weak points he would later exploit to ensure his safe extraction. He memorized every guard rotation, every detail of the apartment structure, every stairwell and service entrance. His mind became a living blueprint of Hitler's surroundings. But Harris also observed the human side of those living under the regime. He saw fear in officers' eyes, the tension in families attending dinners, the hesitancy of servants carrying out orders. Behind the facade of absolute power, he realized that terror governed even those who seemed strongest. And in that realization lay a moral lesson. Understanding the enemy's humanity could be as powerful as understanding their strategies. As winter descended on Berlin, conditions worsened. Snow and ice blanketed the city, making travel dangerous. Yet Harris's operations continued. He had constructed a system of code words and signals with his contacts, allowing information to flow in near real time without raising suspicion. Each successful message brought crucial insights back to Allied command, influencing strategy and saving countless lives on multiple fronts. The psychological toll was relentless. Harris lived in a dual reality. One, the world of outward normalcy, where he dined with officers and nodded at conversations about campaigns he despised. The other, a shadow world of espionage, fear, and moral weight. Sleep was fragmented, anxiety constant, yet focus remained absolute. Then came the pivotal moment. Harris intercepted a plan for a high-level meeting that included Hitler's closest advisors. The details were so sensitive that had the Allies acted without verification, the repercussions could have been catastrophic. Harris, using his network of contacts, verified every piece of information and transmitted it safely. This intelligence later allowed Allied forces to anticipate Nazi moves, adjust strategies, and maintain a crucial advantage in multiple theaters of war. But the closer he operated to the epicenter of power, the more dangerous it became. Every footstep, every glance, every spoken word could betray him. He became hyper-aware of even the smallest changes. A new officer assigned to his building. A shift in patrol patterns, the subtle tension in a servant's gaze. By spring 1944, Harris knew the extraction window had to come. Allied forces could no longer risk keeping him in Berlin. Yet leaving was no simple matter. He had to navigate checkpoints, avoid patrols, and rely entirely on timing and disguise. Each step of the escape was planned with military precision, down to the smallest gesture. The night of extraction arrived. Harris donned a disguise, blending seamlessly with the night. Using every skill honed over months' observation, patience, timing, he slipped through Berlin's shadows, moving past guards who remained unaware of the American spy in their midst. Heart-pounding, he navigated alleys, sewers, and hidden passages. Finally, reaching a safe house on the outskirts of the city, Harris handed over his memorized intelligence to the courier. It was a moment of triumph, the culmination of months of courage, patience, and ingenuity. Yet even in victory, the moral weight lingered. He had witnessed atrocities, manipulated people's lives, and survived by walking a razor-thin line between life and death. Harris's work didn't just provide raw intelligence. It altered the course of operations in Berlin and across Europe. Plans intercepted, troop movements anticipated, and the morale of the Allied command strengthened. He became a living example of how courage, intellect, and calm under pressure could bend the course of history without firing a single shot. As the Allies closed in on Berlin months later, Harris had vanished into obscurity. No medals awaited him in Berlin, no public accolades. Only the gratitude of commanders and the knowledge that history had been influenced by one man's bravery and unflinching resolve. The night Harris finally left Berlin was unlike any other. Months of tension, fear, and meticulous planning culminated in a single breathless escape. Cloaked in darkness, he moved with deliberate precision, every step rehearsed 100 times in his mind. The city's streets were quiet, but danger lurked behind every corner. Gestapo patrols, loyal neighbors, informants, and random checks. One wrong turn, one misstep, could mean capture and almost certain execution. Harris navigated the alleys and hidden passages, following a route that took him past checkpoints he had memorized and through streets he had studied from his apartment windows. His mind was a steel trap of details, guard rotations, street patterns, service entrances, and even the habits of local dogs. Every detail mattered. Every detail could save a life. Hours passed. The Berlin night was bitterly cold, snow crunching under his shoes, moonlight illuminating abandoned courtyards. He paused occasionally, listening, observing, adjusting. Fear was constant, but so was discipline. In that moment, Harris embodied the essence of a true operative: calm, vigilant, and determined. Eventually, he reached the designated safe house on the outskirts of the city. The door opened silently, and a courier welcomed him with a nod. Harris handed over the intelligence he had painstakingly gathered over months: troop movements, strategic plans, and crucial insights into Hitler's inner circle. Each document, each word, each observation could alter the course of the war. The courier slipped away into the night, carrying the precious information to Allied command. Harris finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. Relief surged, but so did the weight of what he had witnessed. Berlin had been a city of contradictions, grandeur and despair, power and fear, cruelty and the quiet, hidden acts of resistance. Harris had walked among the powerful and the terrified, and he had survived by blending observation, intellect, and courage. Back with Allied forces, Harris's intelligence proved invaluable. His reports allowed the Allies to anticipate movements, disrupt plans, and save thousands of lives. Strategists used the information to strengthen operations across multiple fronts. Though Harris had never fired a weapon, he had changed the course of battles, proving that bravery comes in many forms, and sometimes the greatest acts of war are fought with mind and will rather than bullets. Yet the moral reflection was unavoidable. Harris had lived among people whose ideology perpetuated unimaginable suffering. He had witnessed the ordinary lives of individuals complicit in extraordinary crimes. He had learned that fear and indoctrination could bind even the most rational minds. And he had understood that survival often demanded ethical compromises. But through it all, he had maintained a singular focus: the mission, the greater good. The lives his intelligence could save. When the war ended, Harris returned to the United States, largely unknown to the public. His work remained classified for decades, a hidden chapter in the vast history of World War II, yet those who knew the story understood its significance. Harris had not only survived among the enemy, he had thrived as a source of critical intelligence, influencing the outcome of campaigns and shaping the strategies of Allied forces. In later years, Harris reflected on his experience. He spoke about courage, patience, and the power of observation. He emphasized that heroism is not always about grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it is about quiet perseverance, a meticulous gathering of knowledge, and the courage to act when the moment demands. He often remarked that understanding the humanity of others, even those on the opposing side, was as crucial as fire. Understanding their strategies. Harris's story also serves as a reminder of the unseen contributions of countless individuals during wartime. While battles are fought in the open, wars are often won in shadows through intelligence, careful planning, and courage exercised in silence. The bravery of those who risk everything without recognition forms the backbone of history's victories. Today, historians and enthusiasts study Harris's exploits as a masterclass in espionage and strategy. Museums preserve artifacts, declassified documents reveal his careful planning, and accounts from Allied officers confirm the impact of his intelligence. But perhaps the most enduring lesson lies not in the documents or the accolades, but in the spirit of determination, ingenuity, and courage that Harris embodied. The American spy who lived in Hitler's Berlin apartment for months teaches us that true heroism is often invisible, quiet, and strategic. It is the patience to observe, the discipline to act with precision, and the moral courage to carry the weight of knowledge and responsibility. It reminds us that even in the heart of darkness, one individual's resolve can create ripples that shape the course of history. As we reflect on Harris's extraordinary story, we are reminded that history is composed not only of battles won with weapons, but also of those won with intellect, courage, and the unwavering determination to make a difference. The shadows of Berlin were silent witnesses to his bravery, and the echoes of his actions continue to teach lessons in strategy, morality, and the extraordinary impact of the human spirit.